Mariners lose 8-0. They fall to 44-32 on the season, and the series against the Guardians is even at a game apiece. Let's go over the scoring plays. Guardians get on the board first with a Josh Naylor single to right to score Stephen Kwan. Not the last time we'll bring up any of these names. It was pretty much three guys that really did all the damage today. Stephen Kwan homers to right in the second inning off of Brian Wu to make it 3-0. In the fifth inning, Jose Ramirez reaches on an infield single to score Andres Jimenez. We will talk about why Jimenez is on base. I don't want to do this, but it's such a major storyline or for this game anyway, that we have to talk about it. That happens in the fifth. Then Josh Naylor homers to right to score Jose Ramirez. 6-0 at the end of five. Guardians get another in the sixth on a Bo Naylor single to right to score Schneemann. And hey, Josh Naylor in the seventh inning. Why not just complete a monster game for you? Homers to center, 8-0. Mariners lose. I don't know if there are any positives from this game to really. I don't think you can do a positive for this game. Your positive for this game is that winning yesterday makes this loss far less crappy, for lack of a better term. There's some worse terms that I could do, but I want this video to be monetized. The fact that you won yesterday makes this game not unimportant. It would have been great to get a sweep here. And you still need to win tomorrow to win the series, and I think you should win the series. Ideal. But it's a little more justifiable and understandable. There are some stuff that's concerning, no question about it. But thank goodness they won yesterday, and they managed that game yesterday like that was the one you got to get. And then you have, Luis Castillo. We'll talk about it. But I don't have any real positives to say about this game other than the fact that they won yesterday. You know what? I do have one positive. You probably know what it is. It's Simply Seattle. They provide the very best in Seattle sports gear. Great stuff for the Mariners, Seahawks, Kraken, Storm, Supersonics, Huskies, Cougars. You can find it all at Simply Seattle. And once you find it all, use code MOLLYWOP15 to take 15% off your order. MOLLYWHOP15. There'll be a link in the description. You can just copy and paste that. If you can't remember if there's an H in it or not, which seems to be the biggest issue for some folks. MOLLYWHOP15. Thank you so much, Simply Seattle. All right. We'll do the individual stuff, and then we'll talk about, So Brian Wu, great to see him back on the mound. Pounded the strike zone. Of course, he walked the first guy he faced, but after that, threw a ton of strikes. I don't think he threw very many good strikes. And I talked about this yesterday, that I thought it was pretty obvious what the Guardians' game plan was going to be, is to make Brian Wu work. Because why wouldn't you? Especially after the Mariners used 5 relievers yesterday. Was it 5 or 4? It was 4. Anyway, was it 5? It doesn't matter. Used a lot of the bullpen, and used the high leverage guys too. There's another positive, by the way. He didn't have to use any of the high leverage guys today. But I don't think Wu was great. And this was a tough matchup for him. Number one, he was facing a lineup that is kind of going to be his kryptonite a little bit. Guys who can foul off a lot of pitches, guys who can pick up spin, guys who put the ball in play and can put the ball in play hard too. And he was just due to give up some runs. The dude came into the game with an ERA of 1.07. He was making his first start after having an injury scare. I can't be too surprised by the results. Good for him for holding him scoreless for the next 2 innings and keeping the Mariners in the game when he clearly didn't have his best stuff, nor his best command. Threw a lot of strikes, but again, control, command, not the same thing. We've talked about it a lot. He wasn't great. I expect him to bounce back quite nicely in his next outing, but this was a tough matchup for him. And honestly, I thought about this while he was pitching. This is completely hindsight, by the way, because it's not something I thought of at the time. Ideally, you probably don't have him pitch in this series, mainly because the lineup he's facing, and also how bloody hot it was in that stadium. I mean, those teal jerseys turned into dark green real quick. It was hot. It was muggy. You could tell. I was miserable just looking at him. Now, you can tell I'm a guy. And yes, no more beard. I couldn't take it anymore. I was starting to bite the ends of my mustache. I couldn't do it. But it might have made more sense to hold him back, a couple more days. I get it. You want to get him going, and I do expect him to be better, but not his best effort. Not his best effort at all. Not what the reason really why they lost the game, but Bauman struggled, but I want to talk about why Bauman struggled partially. Same for Bolton. Bizzardo gets you 3 Ks, does give up the home run. All those guys worked hard. They're probably not going to be available tomorrow, but all the guys that you threw on Monday or Tuesday, should be available for the finale. And hopefully you don't have to use too many of them. So the pitching wasn't great. The offense was not even close to great. Let's save JP Crawford. Big Dumper had a rough one. Ty had a pretty rough one. Rayleigh draws a walk, as did Big Dumper, or Ty France, but they kind of, Mitch Haniger struggled. Dylan Moore did not follow up on yesterday's great game. It's a bad offensive effort. And it's another guy who, Tanner Bybee is a good pitcher. Second in Rookie of the Year last year, has a chance to be a frontline starter, but it's not a guy who should be striking out 12. And another 14 strikeouts today. However, Doug Eddings should be ashamed of himself. I do not care what that scorecard says tomorrow. He was terrible. And worse than terrible, to me, it's bad to get calls wrong. Don't get me wrong. Obviously. It's much worse to get calls wrong and also be inconsistent with your strike zone too. There's no way either hitter or any hitters on either team knew what a strike was today. Not a clue. Not a clue. It's pathetic. It's not the reason the Mariners lost. It's not the reason the Guardians won. It played a major factor for both teams, though. The 2 strikeouts for JP Crawford, in particular in the first inning, it just set the tone of how crappy this was going to be. Because those pitches weren't close. And Crawford gets ejected, Service gets ejected. I liked that both guys got ejected, to be honest with you. I like seeing the fire. I don't like. Sometimes the fire can come off extremely fake. I will give you an example of that. John McLaren's press conference where he has the big swear fest, that came across as so fake to me. Just faux outrage, to say the least. Or faux outrage, however you're supposed to say that stupid word. F-A-U-X. What a dumb way to spell a word, too. But Doug Eddings was terrible. Atrocious. And again, just being the guy that I am who likes to be liked, I don't know what to do, because if I go too hard on Doug Eddings, it becomes, I'm a big homer. I'm defending this team that strikes out so many gosh dang times. But if I don't mention Doug Eddings, then I'm a hater. I am someone who just doesn't want the Mariners to win, blah, blah, blah. And it's a little hyperbolic either way. But it's a no-win thing doing a daily show that way. But I'll just tell you this. Mariners weren't good. Doug Eddings was worse. My humble estimation. Mm. But they had some chances. 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. And really, the only ball that was hit hard with runners in scoring position was Julio lining a ball right to Jose Ramirez, 104 mph exit velocity. And that's frustrating. I'd also like to see him lift that baseball. 3 hits and 14 strikeouts is not good. There's your understatement of understatement. And there's still too many of these efforts, right? We saw one again on Thursday. We obviously saw one today, and we've seen a whole heck of a lot of them, in the earlier portion of the year. If you win tomorrow, it'll be pretty easy to forget about this, other than the fact that I'll have Doug Eddings' strike zone playing in my head all night. It's just not good. And those robots are ready. And there's mixed reports on how ready those robots are. But when they're ready to go, you gotta get to that system. At least the challenge system. I wanted to address one other thing. Some people mentioned yesterday that I was too negative in yesterday's video. I vehemently disagree. I watched the video. See, I don't think I was at all. But I'm just going to tell you, if you're just looking for sugar-coated Mariner coverage, this is not going to be the channel for you. I'm going to be honest and give you my opinion over every single game. And I'm going to add in some stuff like I just did today. Today, there's no doubt about it that if they would have lost 5 straights and this is the effort that they gave, I would be very angry. And you guys have seen me very angry on this channel. You guys have gotten volume warnings in YouTube stuff, or in the description, excuse me. I will. And when I'm pumped up, I will be pumped up. Just like I was in that Texas series. But I really don't appreciate the idea that I'm anything but honest about how I feel about this team game to game. Because that's what I'm going to give you. And while I appreciate the support, I appreciate the likes, I appreciate those of you who have hit join to help me in that journey, I'm not going to change. All right? Let's just make that abundantly clear. I am going to give you the positive when it's positive. I'm going to give you the negative when it's negative. And every once in a while, if things get real bad, I'm just going to shake my head for 30 seconds. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I really do appreciate the support. I really do appreciate the criticism as well because it helps me get better. But I don't appreciate insinuations that I'm anything but honest about this team. I'm saying this at the end in part because a lot of you guys don't watch till the end. So maybe this is just talking to myself a little bit, but I'm not changing. And I think it's a good thing that I'm not changing. Luis Castillo, I believe against Logan Allen tomorrow. Advantage Mariners, if I'm right about that. I occasionally get these wrong. I'm looking right now. ESPN. Yep. Advantage Mariners. Go get that win, and then you have 3 games against the Marlins. Interesting that the Marlins, by the way, are lining up 3 lefties against Seattle. Be curious how they manage that, if Josh Rojas will be in the lineup for any of those games. But, yeah, this was a bummer. Thank goodness for yesterday because still get a chance for a series win, and you've been playing pretty darn good baseball outside of today. Doug Eddings, please get better.